Hello and welcome back to the Book of Flynn. I'm Vinzer Flynn, and it's a very special week here at Steelhaven Castle because not only is Reigna taking a week of vacation off, it's her birthday week.
My birthday!
It's your birthday!
If you know, you know.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I had a blast. I got Polly Pocket. That's right. I got a Polly Pocket and I am an adult. Because that's how adulting works.
It's pretty cool.
It's very cool. It is Friends themed. So it is all the characters. Lots of little positions for all the little funny side jokes.
It was surprisingly thorough. Spinning chairs for the guys. They even came with the turkey head. Like, it was...
It has the chicken and the duck. But I also got, via one of the Flynns, shout out to Merida, Buffy Tarot. So I'm not gonna... If you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead about 15 seconds. But essentially, Xander's the fool. And that's all you really need to know.
Well, at the end of this birthday week, we're going to be going to South Haven, too, for a much-needed visit to what I call Mandalore, Cape Breton. In the fall. You can't beat that.
It's going to be so nice. It's going to be right before Celtic Colors is ramping up, so tourist stuff is still open, and it's going to be fantastic.
Remember, book your stay at the Fern and Thistle Cottages. Does that mean I have to click includes paid endorsement on the podcast now?
We are sponsored by Fern and Thistle Cottages.
Well, all right. You ready to continue our Clone Wars Buffy adventure?
Are you ready for the Brain Invaders?
I didn't remember what this episode was titled when I saw it. Oh my god.
I clicked on it and went, oh dear. And then I remembered during the recap, I was like, why are they showing us the zombie? Oh no. I was like, why are they back? Why?
Yeah, we're not out of this yet.
And then when the quote came up, it's attachment is not compassion. And I was like, what? I don't understand how that... Are they going to have to kill... Oh, is someone going to die? And then I got really nervous. I have to have an official prediction for this. So all I wrote was Mars attacks. Because when I read Brain Invaders and then attachment is not compassion, I was like, are there going to be flying brains? It's just, that was it. First thing. We have a victory on Geonosis recap. Boggle, who I refuse to call his proper name at this point because it's just embarrassing. He's clicking at every Jedi that walks by him, and I'm like, I want those subtitles. Can I have those subtitles, please?
Yeah, I guarantee motherfuckers in there somewhere. The recap, actually, I missed it, if they even said it at all, but the Queen, the Hive Queen, Queen Corina, I think it was. I don't remember them saying the name last time.
They didn't really talk about her at all. They were just like, oh, look at that big cockroach up there. Ooh, that must be her. Oh, hey, look, it's this queen that no one's ever seen before. He clicks at Clone Head as he comes out of the ship to tell Anakin Skywalker, who I refer to as Gloomy or Gloomwalker, because he looks really tired, that they received a distress call from Mace Windu's forces on Dantooine. And is this really close to Tatooine? Is there any relation here?
Not really. I've been to Dantooine many a time. It's a farm world kind of place. Rolling hills and savage tribes, things like that.
So is it just a coincidence?
There are a bunch of... I think it's just that George Lucas just used that suffix on a bunch because there's Tatooine, Dantooine, Klaatooine.
Oh, okay. All right. I was wondering if they were like, this is this star system, this is this star system kind of thing.
No, I think they're sort of... Tatooine's definitely Outer Rim. I'm not sure about the other.
I would be in a band called Bantooine and play on Tatooine. And I would definitely have the Jizz Whalers.
Are you the twin sons of Tatooine? No, or the twin drums of Bantooine?
Mace Windu's forces are on Dantooine. They lost a lot of men, and I'm surprised to see them caring about their clone troopers, I've gotta say.
I don't think they said in battle, like maybe they had a party that went awry or something.
Oh, it's true. They have like a bachelor party going on for someone. I don't know, because I guess Jedi don't have attachments, and clone troopers are bred to not want attachments.
They don't say in the report that a sewer tank exploded and killed half the platoon.
Oh no. What a crappy situation.
Oh no, that's good night, everybody.
Da-da-da-da-da. These poor men need some medical supplies for their hangovers, and they want it brought to them via the medical station so they can go pick them up with Mr. Fisto. I was so excited to see him near Sestras.
Ord Cestus, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I took a stab at it. I didn't start even spelling Barris right until partway through this episode when I had to Google who her voice actor was.
This is another example of Lucas using similar things because Ord Cestus, Ord Mentel, then things like Mos Eisley, Mos Espa. They don't mean shit. They just keep using them.
Maybe he just had one of those like cross-reference dartboard things that he'd just be like, this one here. Clonehead wants them to go to the medical station, which apparently is very out of the way of Coruscant. So Anakin, Gloomy, and I forget her name. She's so cool. Who is she?
Luminara.
Yeah, Luminara. They agree that essentially the other two, the Padawans, are going to go and they can handle going to pick up the medical supplies because what's the worst that could happen?
They tag them back in here like they tagged them out before. It's another slick tag in on this Geonosis mission.
They are going to go do the medical supplies and they need an entire team with them to do this. Thought that was interesting, but okay, I guess it's just for plot purposes.
Some of the ships in Star Wars, the crew complements, I assume they didn't mean to run the ship, but like Star Destroyers have like thousands and thousands of people working on it. So when one blows up, it's like anytime a big ship gets blown up in Star Wars, the body count is insane.
I guess. I just realized like later in the episode, they all seem to be in their bunk. So I was just like, oh. After we get over the shock of Jedi seeming to care about their clone troopers, Gloomy suggests to send Ahsoka and Babs.
That's her new name. I like it.
And I don't know how I feel about Gloomy being the voice of reason. It's weird. He's got to stop it.
Yeah, such things some things aren't natural, and that's one of them.
Obi-Wan is like, all right, and then we're going to meet up and head to Dantooine. We cut to a scene that I thought was like one of the deceased clone troopers in the temple, but nope, turns out they're just sleeping in this broken area on some...
Oh, hell yeah, man. You're a commando. You got to catch your Z's anywhere you can, even if it's upright in the suit.
No wonder they were all sleeping in the, on the ship, because this is where they had to catch their Z's.
Oh, yeah. They get a bed, too? Fucking great.
Right? We zoom in on one of the clone troopers, and I'm like, no. I just have a lot of no in capital letters throughout this. The leader of this unit, who we later learn as Trap, wakes everybody up in the worst possible way.
Right?
And he almost gets his head blown off in the process. So I'm like, not a big fan of Trap. Cool. This leader, and I use that term loosely, informs them that they're going to be on a medical supply run. And I'm like, no, they're going with Ahsoka. No.
Wait a minute. He woke these guys up that were sleeping so they could go sleep on the ship. That's like the Three Stooges, but where he fucking slaps them and goes, hey, wake up and go to sleep.
One of them with the coolest sideburns named Pulsar goes off how they are above supply runs. And Trap's like, shut your trap and get on the ship.
Is that how we got his name?
That's my theory. I thought that Pulsar was the one with the larvae originally, but it turns out it's the one who didn't even bother to wake up for the entire briefing. And then he does this big exorcist rise, and I'm like, nope, absolutely not. I was surprised that he was fine and able to talk. And I thought that we've really only seen it in the dead so far, but we kind of come back around to that point a little bit later. And I also had a thought where he was like, I'm too bad he's not going with Obi-Wan, because then he would finally get to see his experiment up close. Because he was the one who was like, let's take one of these back. And Gloomy's like, how about no? And again, Gloomy is the voice of reason. Did they swap writers? What is happening here? The Ahsoka plot is called Alien, because there are some parallels here. Larva Boy is following the rest of the group onto the ill-fated ship. And as he passes, we actually see a bunch of eggs in his pack. And again, I have no. Yeah, and then this is where we find out that I can't call him Master Fisto. It's just Mr. Fisto is
Mr. Fist.
Mr. Fisto is talking to Babs, and she's like, "All right, we're ready to jump." So they start. They start hyper speeding. I keep forgetting what Star Wars calls it.
Hyperspace.
Okay, they have a hyperspacing. Yeah. So they start hyperspacing towards the medical station. And it takes them a while to get there, so I can see why Gloomy and Luminara were like, absolutely not. I don't want to go that far out of my way. Ahsoka and Babs are in their quarters, and Ahsoka's tossing and turning, and Babs is sleeping.
Why do Star Wars beds never have blankets? The only time I've ever remember seeing a blanket was when Luke was wrapped in one in Empire.
I don't know. Why don't they have railings? There's just so many things that they seem to just go, we could do without that. She can sense Ahsoka's unease. So when I say sleeping, it means she's like, what? Because she feels Ahsoka staring at her. And Ahsoka's like, oh, it's because of all of the quiet. And I'm like, stop it. You're jinxing yourself. Because Larva Boy is supposed to bust in here and be like, hold my larvae. She decides to turn her insomnia into insomnomnomnomnomnia and go to get a snack, and Babs joins her. They pass by a hallway where Larvae Boy is literally doing what I just said, but in a different room. He busts into the quarters where all of the staff, all the other clone troopers are sleeping, and he lets all the larvae out, and it's really gross because all the cracking as it all like they take over the system, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, the sounds were, I was cringing a bit.
No. Over at the high school cafeteria, Ahsoka continues jinxing the crap out of herself by enjoying the peace while it lasts. And they have a really interesting debate about who the Jedi are and who the Jedi are going to be once peace is established. Are they masters of peace or are they warriors? And it kind of takes an interesting turn, and the reason why I'm kind of going a little bit more specific with this conversation is because there's a lot in here. Ahsoka makes comments about Gloomy's ideas for the future being a bit radical. She gets a bit of a dark look on her face, and it's kind of like, what does Gloomy talk about when it's just the two of them? What of the ideas that we see in the original trilogy, what glimmers are coming up in conversations now?
Yeah, like a desire to impose order kind of thing.
Yeah, and Empire is pretty anti-alien, aren't they?
Very much so, yeah. Like, just ask the Twi'leks or the Wookiees.
So it makes me wonder what of this is being said in front of his non-human Padawan. There's always an element of that there too, because Gloomy doesn't strike me as a super self-aware person a lot of the time.
I feel like Barriss, she still is very much a classic Jedi Padawan and the way she talks and stuff. Whereas Ahsoka, she's been in the shit for a while. She's like a child of war. She's growing up in this war, and it's such a cool philosophical debate because Jedi aren't supposed to be warriors, but that they are involved in such a big war on such a they're like generals is really unusual in their history. Like, they're not supposed to do that kind of thing. So it's an interesting debate for sure.
Do you think that if they hadn't gone into the war, or I guess if this war hadn't happened, would the Jedi still have fallen? Because I feel like the war had to have an effect on their strength and their hold and their beliefs. Like, they probably strayed away from where they're supposed to be standing within the Force.
That's a very, very interesting question. I think that if the Jedi stayed out of the war, like they didn't accept the role of the generals to the clone army, they probably would have, as the war spread, they probably would have sent Jedi out to the worst spots just to help people on the ground, like go help this village that's being trampled. And inevitably they would have got caught up in it, and it would have some probably would have turned into almost like Ronin, like masterless samurai fighting on their own. But I think they would have just tried to help the people. I do think after the war, like, Palpatine wouldn't have forgotten about them. He knew he was going to have to deal with them, so they would have sent the army after them one way or the other. But yeah, it's an interesting line of questioning. I like it.
Let's just say my master will always do what needs to be done. I'm not even sure how peacetime will agree with him.
Dun, dun, dun.
Awkward smile face.
That's what the Emperor said to Anakin, or I should say Vader, in Episode 3. He went, do what must be done. Like, that's a direct link to that.
Cockpit with the only 2 clone troopers not larvaed, but they're probably about to be larvaed. Never mind, they just shot them? They didn't even give them a chance.
Guess they ran out of eggs.
That's what I thought until later.
They must reproduce or something, because they were concerned about infecting the whole place, right?
Yeah, I thought they didn't have them anymore, but then a thing that happens later makes me see this scene in a different light. We'll get to it when I bring it up. Ox and Edge come into the cafeteria with Ahsoka and Babs, and they attack the Padawan pair. They do the smoothest table. I actually rewound it and watched it a couple of times. The smoothest table flip ever. Ahsoka pushes down on it with her foot, and then Barriss just backflips over it and just brings it up to on its edge, and then comes down behind it. And I was just like, that was so cool.
The clones had the drop on them, and they just made it look easy how they just responded, no problem.
These two are so in sync. Like, I have never seen 2 Jedi work so well together as I have these two, and I love watching this. I need an entire series of these two just going about the universe, girl power, but oh my gosh, I love these two together.
If my face were a meme right now, it would be the one of Mr. Incredible, where it's like, when it goes all dark, when you know, when you don't know.
Oh no, I don't like it. They knock out the first pair, and then another pair walks in, and it's Trap and Havoc, I believe I caught their names to be. I guess they aren't larvaed? Question mark? Maybe it was a secondary quarters, or they're on duty. I can't figure out the timeline on this one. They surrender their weapons to prove that they're not larvaed and they're on their side, and they all kind of talk about what the motives are. And Ahsoka brings up the clone who betrayed Gloomy to the Separatists that time, and Ventress. But Barriss is like, I don't know if that motivation makes sense here. It seems weird. They just wanted to kill them. And again, why kill them? I don't. Anyways. Ahsoka, Babs, and Trap head up to the bridge, and they leave Havoc with the 2 unconscious, not tied up larva troopers. Are they larvaed at this point?
I honestly don't know.
Over on Team Coruscant on the control ship, they remark how the other ship hasn't checked in, and Gloomy's immediately like, worst case scenario, and everybody shoots him down, being like, have some faith, man. Like,
Didn't we literally do Trust Your Apprentice like 2 episodes ago?
I'm usually with them on this, but earlier in the episode, when they're taking off, there is a scene where Gloomy's specifically watching the ship take off, and he has an uneasy look on his face, and I think that he might not even realize it, but he sensed something wrong on that ship. And I think that's why he's going to worst case scenario. So I'm kind of with him on this one. Because Buffy falls victim to this as well. And you will see this reoccur throughout the series. Buffy falls into the same trap where she goes off because her spider senses are tingling. And everybody's like, poo poo, everything's fine, poo poo. And she's like, see, I told you there's something wrong. So I get this because I've watched Buffy go through it. Gloomy also makes a point to say that she, as in Ahsoka, would check in. And I think he understands on some level that she's more responsible than him.
Yes.
So he's right. She would check in. He does know his Padawan well enough to know. Over at Alien, Star Wars edition, larva troopers are dragging their dead brethren off the bridge while they activate the protective force fields. Babs is going to attempt to deactivate them, and then Trap turned on them then? Before?
I've well lost track of my clones at this point.
It's definitely Trap, but I just don't know when he became a larva trooper, because I didn't hear any cracking, which implies beforehand. But when the first larva trooper turned, he was kind of monotone. He didn't really have a lot of his sparkling personality there.
Yeah, I felt like the whole infection vector thing lacked a little consistency.
Yeah. One almost gets Babs, but then Ahsoka kills it. Ahsoka's head count on these larvae is impressive throughout this episode. They head to warn Mr. Fisto. And they stop when they hear Gia Notion? Can our vocal cords even do that?
I don't know.
Why are the larvae troopers... How? They watch larva troopers actually infect another clone trooper, so no sideburns, so this was not Havoc, so that means that Havoc was either turned off screen or he was already turned. Who knows? And then another larva trooper comes around the corner and surprises them from behind. They throw 2 more eggs at them, so that's 3 more eggs. When they tried to kill them earlier, they get the eggs cut in half immediately. Ahsoka's up to 3 in a matter of minutes. And the scream that the others let out once those 2 die was really haunting. I didn't like it. Thankfully, Team Badass escapes through the venting system. And Babs is like, all right, I'm going to go stop the ship. You go to the comm center and send out the warning. And Ahsoka's like, I don't know if I want to split up. And Babs is like, I don't want to either, but we got to. So Mr. Fisto is receiving the comm from Ahsoka, and I thought that was going to take longer. I was kind of surprised to see that she made it to the comm center and got the signal out right away. Thought she was going to have a bit more of a fight on that, but okay. She wants to stay away, and Mr. Fisto is like, "No, come here. I want them to be examined."
Yeah, that seemed like a really silly response to me. I'd be like, all right, we'll quarantine the ship. No, bring it in.
Does the Jedi arrogance know no boundaries? Like, the plot of this episode is just alien.
Which makes everyone 20% stupider.
True. Speaking of, Babs is making her way to disable the thrusters, and I'm like, here we go. This is going to be the issue. She gets caught, and she gets larvaed. And Ahsoka also manages to contact Rex and Gloomy. And Gloomy's like standing there off camera. He's like, let me know if she calls. And Gloomy's just like following Rex around, I guess, the entire time. He's just in back. No, I haven't heard from them yet. Then we have a horror movie jump scare in the form of Babs at the barrier. I legit jumped when the camera pans over and it's just the outline of this girl not 4 feet away from where Ahsoka is sitting right now.
Yeah, I think there's like a scary record scratch type music too. Like, oh, you're right there, aren't you?
Yeah, and Gloomy has the idea right before that. Gloomy has the idea to get Ahsoka on comms, those super helpful, loud wrist communicators. And suddenly my favorite pair of the entire show have to battle each other. And Ahsoka is so reluctant, so she basically just is like, run away! I didn't even wait to see what the scene was going to be about, and immediately wrote, Obi-Wan is so excited to have a science project up and running again. And then I'm like, oh wait, never mind. It's Gloomy approaching the holding cell and gets really scary. He's like, leave us alone, and then goes in, and as soon as he realizes Jedi mind tricks don't work on Genoshans, he just straight up goes to torture.
Force choke is a bona fide dark side power. We definitely see some early Vader here, like just his demeanor and the way he spoke. Like the director's like, he was definitely the guy like put some Vader in this. Like, leave us.
Yeah, he just punches Boggle across the room. That was alarming. Not as alarming as Barriss at the barrier, but Ahsoka's still trying to outrun Larvae Babs, and she's remaining on the defensive, and she ducks back into the ventilation system. And this is where I noticed the point from earlier. I don't think they can turn them and retain most of their maneuverability and their personality. the pilots, I don't think would have been able to pilot had they been larvae.
Yeah, but that leads me to a note I had here that, like, how the larvae seem to have a hell of a lot of control over them. But, like, Barriss fights with her lightsaber and the Force quite effectively while she's controlled. So, like, again, kind of ambiguous.
But she doesn't have the forethought. She doesn't have Barriss's instinct, because Barriss would not have missed the fact that she went up into the ventilation system, because it was the exact same ventilation shaft that she created in the first place. She would have remembered that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But just that she didn't, like, cut her own leg off with using a lightsaber, that alone was, like, impressive to me.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They have their own people take over. I still don't understand why they shot the pilots, but my only explanation is, I guess, maybe they didn't have the right maneuverability. Not as strong larvae. I don't know. Over at the control ship, Gloomy just casually wanders into the bridge and is like, oh, by the way, there's larvae loose on the other ship. And Gloomy, you get a look at his face. The dark side had an effect on his face. He looks gaunt.
Couple dark side points there if we were playing D&D.
His insomnia definitely looks very, very bad. And the Jedi notice. Everybody in the room is all giving each other the three-way side eye.
Whoa, you got the shit eyes. You been using the dark side?
Exactly. Because they're all like, you got him to talk, hey? How? And Gloomy's like, don't worry about it. So they're all like, uh-oh. In the echoey ventilation shaft, Ahsoka and Gloomy are on the comms. That definitely almost doesn't get her caught. She reaches the controls and they realize that the worms are sensitive to cool. So she goes, vents the cooling system, and everybody starts suffering. As she vents the cooling system, the ship arrives at the medical station, and Fisto actually is pretty good about maintaining quarantine until the issue's under control. He goes, we do not go over there until this is cleared up. If it was Gloomy or Obi-Wan, that would not have happened. But Ahsoka gets to the bridge, she gets there, and Larva Babs is already there waiting for her. Where was she? Anyways, that was creepy. They fight and the ship goes in for a crash landing. And as the cooling system really settles in the bridge because it gets closed off, Babs actually peeks through. She's speaking past the parasite and she's asking for Ahsoka to kill her. And Ahsoka, we see her take a swing of her lightsaber off site, but we can't see what happens to her. I presume that she took a swipe at the larvae. The tug ships manage to get the ship docked into space. When they get to the bridge, they see Ahsoka holding Babs, and it's so sweet. And the line that Ahsoka says when she gets roused by Fisto, it's like, I'm here to pick up the supplies. And then she passes out. She wakes up later in a hospital room, and Gloomy reports that everyone's gonna be fine. You mean they just didn't execute the clone troopers just in case? Cool.
Just as clone bodies drift by the window outside. Yeah, we took care of everything. No problem.
Yeah, everything's fine. Fisto comes in, like Captain Fisto Obvioso comes in, and he's like, the larvae are the same ones as Geonosis.
Like, no shit, Professor Fisto.
Gloomy says, this is probably why they keep taking back the planet. And I'm like, oh man, that would make so much sense. Ahsoka asks if she made the right call in sparing Babs's life, and Gloomy talks about how attachments are hard to let go of. Can we just flash back to what you just did in the holding cell, my dude?
Yeah, you literally use the dark side because you're attached to your Padawan.
Yeah, he thinks that she made the right call, and he thinks that Babs would agree, and you know what? Honestly, I believe that she also made the right call because she killed the worm. So, barring all of that, she did save the day, and she used science, and science always wins. I liked this episode. I really liked that. I guess, besides we still had Geonosians wreaking havoc in the episode. At least it wasn't on Geonosis. And this episode makes me realize that there is kind of an overarching story happening very quietly in the background, because obviously we already know what becomes of Anakin Skywalker, and it's brief glimpses to show his choices when he's using the Force, and he gets a little darker and stronger kind of each time, so we're getting to see that evolution. Because if we just went from 2 to 3 without that development in the middle.
I enjoyed this episode in that it related a little bit to like an alien type story, you know, there's a monster loose on the ship kind of thing. That's always kind of fun. I'm sick of the brain worms. Like, I'm fucking done with these things. I don't want to hear them eggs cracking or slither around anymore.
I'm done with the full-on chiropractic adjustments that are happening every time they take over.
Yeah, for sure. I like that we saw some real early Vader, like even his theme played just a little bit there when he to interrogate Poggle. Yeah, as there was actually a bit of the theme.
Ooh.
When their ship was almost crashing into the medical center, as someone who's nearly crashed into a space station many times, that was the most anxious moment of the entire episode for me.
I felt that. I was like, brakes, reverse thrusters now.
Well, so much for the brain invaders.
The original quote now makes sense, because this episode, the A plot may or may not have been about the brainworms, but the B plot was definitely Gloomy's journey through this episode.
Yeah.
Done with the brain zombie larvae brainworm things. Go away.
Well, we got bad news as we move on to the Buffy episode. So next up is Buffy Season 2, Episode 8, entitled The Dark Ages.
All of the answers to all of the questions you wanted to ask about Giles. I love this episode.
Resolved in a rather timely manner. I was expecting to wait a lot longer for any answers. I thought they were going to drag it out more. Predictions for this episode, before I watched it, was a monster of the week from the Dark Ages, or maybe a peek into Angel or Giles' dark history. So,
boom.
Not the most inaccurate one so far. We open on a sweaty-looking man in a suit with a briefcase, and he looks like he's frantically searching for Giles. Enter a zombie of some sort. Enter a zombie-looking woman in a dress he calls Deirdre, so he knows who this person is. In the library, Buffy is working out, and what sounds like Prodigy or something very Prodigy-like. You know, I'm from the 90s. And this is driving Giles nuts, predictably. So they can't hear the zombie choking the shit out of this guy right outside their door. I thought this was a bit of a slack, a bit of a failure of Buffy's Slayer senses. Didn't have a clue.
The techno music blocks all. And we found the mysterious back exit.
Yeah. After Deirdre chokes out the guy in the suit, she falls down and dissolves into slime. So my guess has been updated to maybe she's been reanimated by a greater power and used her to kill this guy. Giles has like a montage dream that looks like some kind of satanic seance or possibly orgy or possibly both, which startles him awake. So Giles is having bad dreams.
Giles, oh my.
Of course Giles sleeps in two-piece pajamas. I'm surprised he didn't have the little Ebenezer Scrooge nightcap. Gets up with a candle and a little holder. What was that?
I don't understand Giles's apartment. I love it. I love the loft. Are you kidding? Like, the loft is awesome, but I don't get it.
Was all that there when he moved in, or did he bring it with? At school, Buffy and Willow are exchanging fantasy dream dates. Looks like they just want to be anywhere but school today. Willow likes John Cusack.
Yeah, I thought that was a weird choice. Personally, I've never seen it.
The way they're talking about wanting to be out of school, and with the title of the episode being The Dark Ages, I genuinely started to worry we were going to do some time travel bullshit. For just a second, I was a little worried. As expected, here's Third Wheel. What are you two up to? Still talking about our periods, Xander, go away. They wonder if Giles has any kind of life outside of school, and Xander says, no, he lives for school and is resentful there are only 12 grades. My mom did grade 13 in Ontario.
Yeah, I remember grade 13 was a thing at one point.
Buffy piles on saying Giles' diapers were tweed, and he is in fact wearing tweed right now. Buffy asks what's on tap for tonight and lists a number of world-ending cliches that are already no problemo. This was funny to me. It's completely obvious, but I love this idea. There's a blood delivery tonight. Vampire Meals on Wheels, which goes nicely with the idea of eating the Uber Eats driver from the other episode.
Continuity.
I like how this is like a day of the month on the calendar they got to watch. Like, oh, it's delivery day. We got to go fight the vampires off with a stick. Literally. Fight them off with a stake.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
The opening credits at this point said directed by Bruce Seth Green.
I don't think it's Seth Green. Giles' quote in that is actually the quote of the episode. She goes, do you think I ever let you down? And he goes, do you want me to answer that or shall I just glare? Is the quote of the episode, and I have used that a lot as a parent. You've probably heard me say it.
I think I have, now that you mention it.
Giles is a very quotable individual as a child. He has a lot of parenting moments.
Jenny Calendar calls Giles England. She says like, hi, England, or something.
Yeah. Yep.
So Willow is helping Calendar do some computer shit for extra credit to help slacker students. Xander immediately cracks a joke about those poor schlubs, and Calendar asks him, is 9 a.m. good for you, big mouth? She basically body slammed him in front of everybody. It was great. You got a bit of schlub on your shoe there. Calendar continues her carnage by trolling Giles into thinking she vandalized and spilled coffee on a book he lent her. He looked so upset by this. Like, it was a deal breaker for him, but she just likes to see him squirm.
There was a weird moment with the three of them after Giles and Jenny walked off, and they're like, oh, can't you just imagine them being together? And then everybody gets really gross and like walks away. I was like,
Calendar calls Giles a sexy fuddy-duddy and basically sets up a sex date for Saturday. At least it certainly sounded like one.
Yeah, this feels like this is going to be like third date, shave the legs kind of scenario.
But Giles is on cloud 9 about it until he goes into the library and there's a lady detective and 2 cops, and they're there about the murder. The victim had his name on a paper. Cordelia enters and she just starts listing her woes rapid fire, like doesn't even care what you're talking about, just this. Why are there books about computers? Aren't they supposed to replace computers? And realizes the cops are there and tries to get some help with her ticket, which she got for going down a one-way street. I was going one way.
That is my favorite Cordelia quote ever.
I was realizing just like, I know they're kind of in on this big Slayer secret with Giles and they're, got this special kind of connection to them, but I still find that, like Cordelia especially, they're just very rude to a teacher. You know what I mean? Like, if we talked that way to a teacher my day, that would have been trouble.
Yeah, like, especially a British teacher. I feel like the British are... I mean, we're coming to find out why Giles doesn't actually care.
Over at the morgue, Giles IDs the body of that of Philip Henry, a friend from England, and he's really beat to shit. This zombie woman really did a number on him.
How did he not have ID on him? How did he get from London with no ID on him?
Maybe zombie Deirdre caught up with him at like the Motel 6 and he had to run out. Sure.
Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Logic.
The coroner asks about the tattoo, and Giles says he doesn't know about it, but he's definitely lying. Buffy's waiting at the blood delivery. She wasn't late. At one point in the background behind her, as she's waiting, I just saw the big blue and white thing for a phone booth. It's so weird to see that now. It's very nostalgic.
Yep.
So the vampires predictably steal some blood. They steal the blood delivery, but one of them sneaks a sip, and they're like, hey, quit it. Angel shows up in the middle of the fight. They do save most of the blood. There's some ass kicking. They use a car hood to good effect. The fucking vampires are slamming down in the car hood, so it was very, very hard-hitting feeling fight. So Buffy's worried about Giles because he considers tardiness the 8th deadly sin, so if he's not here, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Angel agrees to deliver the blood for Buffy. Yeah, right. That's in his fridge right now.
That's why he was going there. He goes, it's delivery night. Everybody knows it's delivery night. And I'm just like, that means he's done this before. He's definitely been like, oh, I'm lining up to get that blood. Like, he was definitely going to the farmer's market stand that they were about to set up.
He was going to rob the vampires and then just take the rest.
So that's at his apartment, Buffy. No, you do not leave human blood with a vampire who does not drink from fresh humans.
Yeah, leave me alone with a box of Kit Kats. You can't do that. Buffy goes over to Giles' house. He will not let her in. He's all disheveled and sweaty, and he just shuts the door in her face. He's being really squirrely. Giles is not. He's out of character right now.
He is drunk.
So he's trying to reach Deirdre, who was the zombie choker in the opening, who disintegrated into goo. She passed away recently. She was an old friend of Giles. Then he crosses her name off a list, which also has Philip Henry, someone named... Did we meet Thomas Sutcliffe already? Do we know who he is? That's just another person in that group. Okay. And the last two on the list are his own and good old Ethan, who called
Ethan
Giles Ripper, and he was the guy that ran the costume shop.
And if we saw a nightmare about orgies earlier, that does imply that Ethan is his old orgy friend.
Don't you hate it when you run into old orgy friends?
Oof, for short.
That's what I say. Oof, I haven't seen that guy in a long time. How do you know him? You don't want to know. Satanic orgy. So Giles does indeed have the same culty-looking tattoo that Henry had. He looks in the mirror. He goes, "So, you're back." So we got a big bad. Philip Henry reanimates at the morgue. So obviously he's going to go find another person on that list to choke out. So Giles better watch his back. I like how the morgue checks the drawers to make sure the bodies haven't run off. Like they're checking them. Oh, yeah, he's still here. Wait, holy shit, one's actually not here. Zombie Phil fucking stuffs this guy into his own drawer. Like,
this means that this happens a lot. They have to do a body check because they're like, bodies just get up and walk out of here. If you think about it, in a vampire town, yeah, that's legit.
Must be high turnaround at that morgue. Finally, the dreaded school on Saturday arrives, and we have Calendar, Willow, Xander, and Cordelia. Calendar, this is great. This really made me laugh. Calendar says, "Okay, guys, the first thing we're going to do is Buffy appears Buffy." And then Xander lets his wet dream fantasies. Am I already asleep? And I was like, bleh.
As gross as I find that comment of, oh, if I fall asleep already, I legit LOL every single time because it's a really funny quip. As gross it is, I can't help but laugh. Like, this one gets past me.
Willow steals the show as she often does because she goes, "Oh, you miss your friends." She uses this funny voice
Willow
when she says it. So Buffy expresses her concerns about Giles to Calendar. He was home alone drinking? Willow's like, "But tea, right?" Like, so innocent.
She just figured out what the Divinal song meant, okay?
Xander's just straight up annoying in this scene, so I just disregarded everything else he said.
I'm okay with that.
Cordelia mentions Giles was talking to the cops. I like how she's still like the unwilling participant in this gang, but you know, she's still a part of it.
Yeah, it's like she wants to... I don't know, she kind of comes around a lot when she really doesn't need to be there. Like in School Hard, she goes there to help them set up for the St. Vigius, and she keeps showing up and going to them as soon as anything's weird or anything is upsetting or sad, or just finds herself talking to these people. And she goes straight to them when she sees them at Halloween. I don't know. I think that on some level, she just doesn't care. And she wants to be their friend, but she wants to be popular. So I feel like she's having her own internal struggle.
Buffy goes to find Giles in the library, and it looks like they actually added some more depth to this set, because it actually felt like we finally had those back stacks kind of thing. Very dark and dreary, so it finally felt that way to me, where it didn't before.
I like this, the symmetry in this episode is just something that kind of occurred to me recently, that as we get to see more of the library, we're also getting to see more of Giles. It's kind of like the library and Giles are the same.
Ethan from the old costume shop, he's creeping around back there, and he tries to dump a bookshelf on Buffy, but he basically gets punched the fuck in the face for it, and especially for the haunted dress thing.
Yeah.
She asks, "What are you doing here?" And he just says, "Snooping around." And even Buffy was taken back by the honest answer, so was I. I was like, okay. He says he and Giles go way back, cue another demonic montage of an orgy or whatever. Buffy calls up Giles and she wants to know what the mark of Egon is. Did I say it right this time?
You did.
What did I say before?
You did.
Egon?
You said Eeyore. You tried like 4 different things in a very short amount of time.
Well, to be fair, I just had a big rip. So.
Egon, I think, was the one you settled on. Was
the mark of Egon. Yeah. Egon, you're mucus. Well, yeah, the zombies turned into mucus, so, you know.
Yeah. So it's the mark of Egon. I'm cool with that.
Anyway, she wants to know what the mark of Egon is, and he tells her to get the fuck out of the library. Sure enough, at that moment, zombie Phil bursts in. Thank God he's dressed, because he wasn't in the morgue, so he took the time to put a suit on.
Where did he get his clothes?
I don't know, but I'm glad he did. What I want to know is how nobody saw this guy lurching across the city, the town, in the middle of the day.
Taking the bus?
I guess no one would bother him. He's wearing a suit, and I'm not going to fuck with this guy.
Transfer.
Is this the number 6 to the Eastern Passage? Ethan runs for it, and right as the gang bursts in, Xander tries to stop him, and Ethan just fucking tosses him aside like a parking ticket. He gives them the emasculation shove. Buffy kicks zombie Phil into the cage, which, as we know, is in every library, so now they've got a zombie. The gang takes a bit of a breather. Then Giles bursts in, and he picks Ethan up by like the back of his head.
Did you see how they actually got Ethan, though? Cordelia punched him out.
Yeah, Cordelia saved the day. Xander fucking flubbed it, and Cordelia stepped in. Ethan calls Giles Ripper in front of the gang.
Cordelia, why does he call him Ripper?
And you know what? This question is not answered to my satisfaction at any point in this episode. Not really.
I think it's just one of those, like, those teen nicknames, those early angsty nicknames. Like, you've got to call me, like, Sardine now. Like, you got to call me Chanterelle. You've got to call me Diego. Shout out to Diego in your stupid costume.
I do have a bit of a theory about it, which we'll get to, but yeah, in general, I felt like the name promised a lot more than it delivered as far as a dark backstory. So Ethan mentions the dreams they're both having, and Phil breaks loose, and he knocks Calendar down. Xander moves to save Cordelia, seemingly by instinct, so I'm like, all the shit talking they're doing, like, I think he's starting to get a crush on Cordelia, he just doesn't know it yet. Phil dissolves into Egon mucus. Cordelia says she's going to be in therapy till she's 30, which is, so old.
Oh my God, like the end of time. Happy birthday to myself, I just turned 37. Continue.
37, you're not old. But the zombie goo has touched Jenny Calendar's hand, so she's going to zombie out for sure. Ethan makes good his escape, and Buffy wants some damned answers. She asks Giles, what's the mark of Egon, he gone. Ethan's gone.
We're gone. Why is Gamora?
He says, stay out of it, speaking as her watcher. He tries to, pull rank and get all official about it.
Yeah, that's going to work on Buffy.
Buffy takes charge, and she starts handing out assignments. And she says, Willow, look through the books for the mark of Egon. And Xander gets assigned to go through Giles' personal shit, which he's pretty enthusiastic about. He's like, does that make me a sociopath? And yes.
It does, good sir. Reflect on that.
And surprisingly, Cordelia wants an assignment. She hops down and she's ready to go, but she gets assigned to help Xander. She's
like, well, never mind then. I think I'd rather be in the computer lab.
But she says she cares about Giles. So in her, she's big of, superficial flake as she is, she's showing up to help. So,
Oh, yeah. This is why I love Cordelia, is they don't really go into it as often as they probably should, but she's got some layers.
Yeah, she's tough. Gotta respect that. Giles takes Calendar to his dusty loft. It is a loft, is it? I never really fully processed.
Yeah, there's a loft upstairs.
So Willow finds some info on the mark of Egon, worn by his initiates, which means, oh boy, Giles was in the fucking university club. This is the mark. Egon is the mark of, also called the Sleepwalker. He can only inhabit this plane through a host, but it's only temporary, and he can sort of jump between dead bodies. So, you ever see that movie? I think it was in the 90s. It was called, Fallen, with Denzel Washington. It was sort of the same idea. It was, I think it was an archangel or something, but it was a malevolent biblical spirit whose only purpose was to cause chaos, that he would leap from body to body. So, like, he'd go into a guy, turn him into a serial killer using his body, wait till they executed him, and then leap out of the body and go into somebody else. And that's all he did. And the villain, so technically the villain's face through the whole movie was just everybody else's face. Really good movie, really scary, the concept of it. So we have a malevolent, extra-dimensional creature that can only use physical bodies as hosts. I was waiting for orgies to get mentioned, and sure enough, and I'm like, Giles is at an orgy. That Giles calendar disables the phone line, just yanks it out of the wall. Which is, what you did back then.
Yeah, it's true. You had to disconnect the phone line. There was no shut off the ringer, do not disturb.
Calendar starts getting frisky. Buffy's worried, so she's on her way over. And Calendar's getting down on Giles, but he's trying to be a gentleman. He can't take advantage of you in your current state. I'm not sure what he meant by that. Is that because she's hurt? Like, it's not like she was drunk.
Because she hit her head really hard, and she might be concussed and all that sort of stuff. At what point? How long do you think it's Egon in the driver's seat from when she wakes up in the library? Do you think it's right away, or do you think it's later on?
Well, if it's right away, then, he played into the deception of still pretending to be Calendar. So I don't know, but, didn't take long, I guess. Giles figures out quickly what's going on here, and all I could think of was the line from Ghostbusters, I make it a point never to get involved with possessed people.
I don't know how he didn't know right away. He knows how Egon works.
True, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, there's an unconscious person there. Suddenly, Philip, he's not jumping into one of the people who have the tattoo, so it's jumping into the nearest unconscious person, somebody who would be bringing him around a lot as a young adult would know that. I don't understand why he didn't get that right away.
And I mean, story-wise, probably he was so concerned for Jenny, but you're right, he should have fucking caught that. This is his thing, man. The change of voice to a deep demon one at the end was disconcerting, to say the least.
Was not one of my favorite choices that they've made on the show.
Calendar gets all zombified, and Egon starts to wail on Giles, but Buffy enters and does my favorite thing, which is just kick a person directly in the face. That's how you enter a room. Egon escapes in Calendar's body out the window, just jumps out the fucking window. Great line here by Giles. Giles is like, oh, I'm so sorry, Buffy, getting you involved. And she goes, don't be sorry, be Giles.
Yeah, because they're at the library. They're like, they pull out that picture of Giles, which is an awesome black and white photo.
Yeah, I wondered if it's that was that doctored, or did they just find an old picture Tony had from the 60s?
I feel like they must have just found an old picture, because it doesn't look photoshopped. And in that day, stuff looked photoshopped.
Yeah, it wasn't even photoshopped yet.
So this doesn't explain Giles's background when we start getting to the rebellion. That doesn't satisfy the Ripper for you enough when we kind of get into what he was like as a young adult.
Well, no, I buy that. That's good enough for me, but it's just, I was expecting there, like, he would have got, I mean, I expect because of what happened with the friend, we'll get to that part, that he got the name Ripper because he had to take part in what they did. But I was expecting it to be more of like a dark secret, like he, accidentally killed someone that wasn't, a monster or something like that, or he did something brutal for a right reason. But I mean, I'll buy that this is his nickname. That's totally good by me. In a way, I'm a little bit relieved it's not something worse. Like maybe he doesn't have this horrible secret where, he fucking murdered somebody or something. Right, so Giles tells Buffy about his high-pressure uni days, and he dropped out and fell in with a bad crowd that dabbled in real magic, and that's when he and Ethan discovered Egon. So they would, in their little culty group, they would summon Egon into their group's bodies, and apparently it was an incredible high, so Giles played host to this at one point too. Sounds like they all took turns. But one of them lost control, and the demon ran amok or whatever, and they essentially had to kill their friend. So now he's back, killing them one at a time for revenge. Or just for kicks, whatever. Giles' concern for Jenny does feel very genuine, like he really, Tony had sold it. He seems very upset and very conflicted and very, very out of sorts, more than usual.
Tony Head is just amazing.
Giles isn't used to really being the cause of the trouble, you know? And Buffy goes to find Ethan. Looks like it's his old costume shop. I mean, is he still paying the rent on this place or what?
I maybe it's just he had the lease up for the next month or something.
Ethan says, well, aren't we manly? And Buffy says, one of us is. So Ethan goes like after you and he clocks her. And I was like, this is again a big Slayer fail because he basically takes a fucking table leg and lays her out and she just goes down.
Yep. I didn't really understand why she would ever go ahead of him.
Right? Like, or be expecting a backstab. Anyway, he clocks her and his plan is to use Buffy as a replacement so he can get away. So the gang are still researching diligently, Cordelia included, and it's her that finds the answer. We have to cut off the demon's head. So they're searching away. Xander looks like he's just phoning it in. He's not even really looking, and Cordelia's like, here's the answer.
To cut off his head.
Xander makes jokes, and Cordelia with the play of the game. You know what you need besides a year's supply of acne cream? A brain. Xander gets riled and he like wants to fight Cordelia and she's like, you know what? I've seen you fight. I can take you. And it's like double kill on Xander here. And Willow does her very rare but always effective breathing fire over them like, hey, quit fucking, you know, like she just goes off. I love it when Willow's out of patience.
When Buffy's not around and Giles isn't around, it seems to be Willow is the next in line to take charge.
Yeah. But Willow has a plan. Ethan burns his tattoo off with acid and it seems to have an effect on Giles here, or he's just drunk again. He collapses at their place, but I assume they're all connected by this thing. That's why the dreams are happening, that sort of thing. And apparently he puts a tattoo on Buffy. It sort of felt like that. You don't really see it. It's just sort of intimated that it happens, but anyway. But I don't feel like that's going to fool the demon. Demon Jenny shows up at this point.
It comes with her own backlight.
Yeah, the door opens by itself. I was like, it's such a simple effect, but you know, it really worked here, I found. My note here says, Christ, Jenny looks like a proper demon now.
Yeah, her face really warped, I guess because she's an unconscious host, not a dead host, so she's not going to have the body disintegrating like that.
The production quality on the prosthetics and stuff was very, very good. Buffy finally works her way loose, and Giles bursts in. A table is damaged. Giles is like, take me! And I'm like, are they going to fuck here now? Or? Angel bursts in. He starts choking out the demon. I put an LOL next to that. Then the gang bursts in. I was like, why is Angel conveniently here? Then the demon jumps into Angel when it's threatened, and I'm like, oh, Willow's plan's revealed here. This is clever. I did not see this plan coming. This is interesting.
Yeah.
But imagine running to Angels in high speed explaining what they needed of him. It's like, all right, here's what's happening. Here's what we need. Let's go.
Is his address just on a post-it in Giles's office? Like, where? Why do they keep finding him?
Or like, how?
He's in the phone book.
Well, he's like Angel. He's at the start. I'm like, is anyone else worried that we just made a demon angel? But I guess it looks like it worked, and the demon gets totally dusted, and Calendar does seem fine. Old Ethan takes his opportunity, fucks off. He escapes again. But you know what? Because he knows Giles from back in the day, it's kind of an interesting nemesis, an interesting enemy to have on the loose that we might bump into again.
Oh, he is absolute chaos. I adore him.
It's funny, when he was talking to Buffy, I was like, this in an alternate dimension, maybe he's the Watcher, you know? Like, I could see him doing that if he was a good guy kind of thing. Like, I could picture it. Later at school, Buffy laments she has to spend her money that she was going to buy nice shoes with on tattoo removal in hopes her mother doesn't see it. And I'm like, don't worry, she's smuggling people across the border right now. And she's a coyote or something. I'm just going to keep coming up with the jobs her mom's doing when she's not here. So we got like, you know, marijuana smugglers, coyote. I'll come up with more. I feel like the gang has a bit of a new respect for Giles, realizing, you know, kind of how tough and lonely a job he has as Watcher. So again, I feel like a little more respect and bonding with the team in general is happening in this episode.
This is very much a parent falling off the pedestal moment.
Yes, excellent way to describe it, yeah.
Yeah.
Calendar's only slightly traumatized, but she's definitely cooled off on Giles. Like, she's stepping up back from him a bit. Like, I think she's a little scared of him now, and it's a shame because, you know, they were going in such a good direction, but now she's a little fucked up from this, I think.
I I don't understand why she's so messed up about it. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, I get that it's like traumatizing and you would need a little bit of space, but I don't understand why you would need space from him. You think that you would want to talk to somebody who has so much experience in this, because it's not like he conjured him at their last book club last month. Like, this was 20 some odd years ago that this happened. And he had no idea that this is going to venture to town, and they hadn't even slept together yet. Does the conversation about having orgies with a demon inhabiting your body in the 20s come before or after the third date? I don't know.
Well, that's a question. Did she actually remember what happened when Egon was puppeteering her, or did she not? Maybe she's like, maybe she felt embarrassed. I can see him being scared, but like, she's dealt with scary stuff before. But that's what I kind of chalked it up to, is that the possession was probably really traumatic for her, and she just needs to kind of be away from the weird shit.
Yeah. I just really like that Angel saved Jenny's life.
He did. Yeah, Buffy says, I'm so used to seeing you as a grown-up, but not as a person. So again, a little more connection between Slayer and Watcher. But it's back to training, back to normal, but again, they seem a little stronger, more united, but they're still sort of the thankless jobs they do. And Buffy's got new pointless sounds, music to listen to, and apparently Giles likes the Bay City Rollers, and Buffy says, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Things I liked about this episode. Scary villain concept, about similar to that movie I mentioned. A villain that can skip bodies. That's a whole new level of difficulty. Good makeup effects. Just felt like a good team episode. Even Cordelia was 100% on board to help, and she genuinely did help. She's way more useful than Xander in a fight or otherwise. So Xander's stock continues to drop. Cordelia's continues to rise.
Always.
I should really be keeping a chart and see how they spike from episode to episode.
There's no level low enough for Xander at some point.
Right. The paper would have to go down too far. Dislikes in this episode is I felt that there was an awful lot of bursting through the door. People just kept bursting through the door. There was a lot of it.
A lot of Clone High kick-ins.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's the only one I liked, was Buffy opened the door, kicked someone in the fucking face. That was the good one. The rest was just people bursting it.
Yep.
I did like it overall. I thought the backstory about the Ripper was over a bit soon. Like, I wanted answers, but I was willing to wait a bit longer. I guess I'm just used to shows these days where they fucking drag it out. But yeah, we got some answers. Pretty quick turnaround there. But like I said, they still never really explained the name. But it's just such a small thing. Like, I'll buy that. I mean, I had weird nicknames in college too.
It probably just sounded like a badass name that wasn't Rupert. Or they got so drunk and mispronounced it one night and then it stuck. My nickname for my best friend is actually a typo in a phone.
My biggest disbelief was that Giles had a tattoo. I was weird. I mean, I know he knew Ethan and stuff, but like, Giles turned into like that James Bond. He got like a hard ass when he fucking grabs this guy by his ear and picks him up. Like, there's no fucking around with this guy.
Imagine him if this is him rusty and hung over, imagine him at his full power in his rebellion stage in his 20s, and that's probably how he earned that nickname.
Yeah, he probably got in a lot of pub fights. I was around beating the shit out of people. Oh, Ripper's in tonight. Shit. Final thought for this episode. What? No trip to the Bronze?
You're right, the Bronze is shockingly absent in this episode.
I wanted an IPA and a scone. And dance to a 90s angsty band.
Yeah, with the scone and the coffee at the bar.
That's how that works, right? Yeah.
The Bronze makes about as much sense as where Joyce goes.
Maybe Joyce owns the Bronze. Maybe she's busy running it all the time.
Is the Bronze on the other side of the art gallery? Oh, man.
We need to find a map. But this episode sort of had world building, character backstory, but it was also a monster of the week. So you got a 2 for 1. Very well done.
I really like this episode. It's one of the standouts from season 2.
Well, that's it for us tonight. We will return next week with more Clone Wars and Buffy.
Grr, arg.
That's good.